It was my freshman year at Austin College. I was sitting in my mentor's corner office of our old science building. I told him of my desire to be a physician. He challenged me by asking, "You want to be a physician because you want to help people, but what about the people you can't help?" I was silent. That very question puzzled me for the next 2 weeks. I had never considered the people I wouldn't be able to help. At that time, I understood helping to be the equivalent of curing a person of their ailment. Later on, I answered that with, "I think the people I will be able to help will outweigh the ones I cannot." I was afraid of how I would deal with not being able to help someone. All I wanted was to be able to do the greatest amount of good for the greatest number of people. I went to northeast rural Thailand for 5 weeks to face that fear as a medical volunteer. 12 other volunteers and I set out for the day. Arriving at the Takuk Community Hospital, I felt needed and useful, especially when we did youth physicals at the local schools. Later that warm afternoon, we were shown to a blue-tiled auditorium with windows lining the walls. Tables, chairs, fans, coffee, water, and ice were brought for us. The volunteers proceeded to set up the various stations. My coordinator tasked me with the conducting of eye exams that afternoon. This was my 3rd time at the school. I gained confidence with each returning visit. If a positive impact is what I wanted, I realized that mastering my own fear of not being useful was crucial. In order to be useful, my first task was to find a pointer for the eye exam. I didn't want to ask and wait. I wanted to find the solution for myself. The search for the pointer led me to the first floor library where I was greeted with 10 sets of curious eyes. Pointing and whispering from locals during the workday made me doubt my abilities. Today, however, I returned it with a cheerful smile full of strength. I could feel my fear shrinking and my confidence building. I returned to my station in the far corner of the auditorium. 4 kids were already waiting in line for their eye exams by the time I finished setting up. I could sense their anxiousness, and I decided to bring joy to a somewhat uncomfortable experience. I gestured at a girl that stood 4 feet tall with a Dora-style haircut to mimic me. I cusped one hand over my right eye, followed by cusping the left hand over the other eye. After covering both eyes and realizing that she fell prey to the prank, a giant smile spread across her face. Blood rushed to her cheeks, revealing her embarrassment. Not only did she laugh, but all the kids in line behind her were laughing and giggling with joy as well, except for a girl with a neatly pressed uniform. She approached with her head tilted forward and her eyes glued to the blue pattern tiled beneath her matte black shoes. I began pointing at the numbers, but she stood quietly and didn't respond. The frustration of being useless slowly crept back in. Maybe she didn't understand me, or had I miscommunicated something through my gestures? I didn't understand why she wasn't responding, so I called out to one of the nurses to ask for guidance. The dental nurse from the next station approached and took a moment to formulate her sentence in English, and then explained that this little girl was blind in one eye and had limited sight in the other. The moment surprised me. I had never encountered a blind child in my life before, and it left me dazed. The nurse's voice brought me back to the moment as she thanked me, while guiding the girl over to the dental station. That afternoon pushed on with many more children who fell victim to my prank, only to burst out with a mixture of laughter and embarrassment just moments later. Later that day, I sat on my bed reflecting. I asked myself, what does helping really even mean? That girl whose eyes were glued to the tile taught me that pointing at numbers on an eye chart wasn't helping cure anyone's ailment, but the other kids who I had made shriek with joy taught me that help can mean being the reason for someone's smile on their face. This got me thinking about my mentor's question again. What about the people I could not help? I was not able to help the blind girl improve her sight, but I did bring joy to the kids who were anxious about their eye exam. I realized everything I wanted was on the other side of my fear.